young black
A young black
equestrian.
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 black equestrian.
Equestrian.
Black equestrian.
Equestrian.
Black equestrian.
I'm a young black equestrian.
I am a young black equestrian.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Young Black Equestrians TV. Today we have with us Tonya Debnam, and she is going to talk to us about she's going to answer some questions that we have in hopes to educate our audience on land acquisition and the things that we need to do to set ourselves up for ownership. So welcome, Tonya. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with us tonight.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I love talking to young people, especially ones that have a very focused on what they want to do. So thank you for letting me speak to you guys. So
Yeah. So briefly, just tell us about yourself, kind of what industry you're in and what kind of led you up that path.
Okay. So I think a bit more. I'm actually a native of Wake County, and I grew up with a whole lot of land. My family owned a lot of land. And so we also, after I went to school at UNC Greensboro, I started a career in banking. So I did a lot of financing. I did land financing as well as just any kind of real estate financing along with that. And then for the last 14 years, I've been doing real estate sales. So I have both ends of it, from the financing end of it to also the sales end of it as far as land acquisition.
Awesome. So how did you kind of get into helping people acquire land? Like how did that become a thing for you?
Well, I guess a lot of what I've seen right now in the industry is that there has been a lot of land transfer. I mean, there's so many areas around Wake County that used to be mostly minority-owned land. Holly Springs, Fuquay, Nightdale used to be mostly African Americans own that land, and that's not how it is anymore. And so they come up, and we've lost a whole lot of land. My passion around the land piece for our people is that trying to find ways that we're not forced to sell it. And the reason why a lot of people are selling their land and not making it become a legacy like my grandfather did is that the taxes get so high on it that it's hard to make it kind of income producing. Mm-hmm. So what I would do is try to come up with creative ways that we can find ways to keep our land much longer than one generation. And that's what's happening, because once we lose it, it's going to be very difficult to get back and establish land. Right. Because it's one of those items, like you can break down a house and build another one. But the land is gone. It's earth. It is not reproducible. You cannot reproduce it anymore.
Right. Okay, cool. That's awesome. So we are obviously interested in this topic because we have horses, and horses require land. Mm-hmm. Like that's it. And, studies have shown if they are not on land, I think the kind of minimum rule at this point is an acre per horse, that they are not living the quality of life that they should. What are there programs out there for people to, either get financing or learn how to do it correctly?
Well, there are some programs and things like that. And I'm going to tell you from our first background first, because that's what I know best. And that is traditional bank financing, okay? Traditional bank financing, they don't really like land. So you go to the bank and you say, hey, I got 40 acres that I want to, buy for $200,000 or whatever that number may be. Typically, what the banks are going to want is a 50% down payment. And that becomes a challenge for most people, no matter who you are, that becomes a big challenge. And not only that, do they require 50% down, they would call amortize, which means they say how long they calculate the payment is going to be. Typically, that's 15 years. Now, if you're thinking in the terms of a residential house, that is amortized over 30 years, which makes that $200,000 payment like half of what it would be for a land at 15 years. Okay,
Wow.
and not just that, banks, because they're not really hungry for land financing, they will typically put a 5-year to 7-year call on it because they want you to do something within that time frame. That means, put a house on it, put something on there so they can do the longer financing, and they're securing it with not just the land, but the land plus the improvement. And that makes the asset much, much stronger. And then since I've, talked to Caitlin and thought, and I want to pose this question to the young people, there are creative ways that you can go about doing financing. Like I just told you pretty much a model for bank financing, which I can see the struggle for most people putting out 50%, and then you have a high monthly payment. So then the other thing that you can look at doing for acquiring land is doing owner financing. So you may find the owner that is mature in age and maybe they just can't maintain that farm like they used to in their youth, or they could be family members that inherit it and they don't really know what to do with it, so they want to get rid of it. So you may want to propose doing some owner financing. And you can get really creative with the owner financing and things like that, so that those programs are out there too. So you've got bank financing, the owner financing. Then the other option that you could do is there are programs out here. Those, I don't know where most of your audience is, if it's in Wake County. The best place to go is right off Pool Road. Off Pool Road, they have USDA, they have the U.S. Department of Agriculture, North Carolina Cooperative Extension, and they also have a lot of programs to help you do the land financing. So there are some government agencies that support particular land, and they can come up with some really creative ways to give you longer terms and also to pay back, and maybe get some grant money that's out there as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Knowing where those resources are to get access to that. So how is owner financing different from bank financing? Like, can you pretty much come up with your own contract? Well, is it the owners, what they wish?
Yeah, so you as the owner, I'm actually doing one right now that's the owner financing. So the buyer said, I've got this amount of money down, and say I want to pay it off in 5 years. That was what this agreement was, for example. This was a real case. And the owner was fine. We came up with interest rates that both the buyer and seller could agree with. And then I would actually get an attorney to draw up all the paperwork between the buyer and the seller. And now the bank or the lender in this case is going to be the seller. So the seller does just like it would be for a bank financing. That means when you go to closing, they transfer the ownership from the seller's name to the buyer's name with a lien against the property for the amount of the loan. Okay? So now the owner is now the financer, but not the owner. Okay? And then if you default on there, they have the right to foreclose just like a bank would. Then they're laying back. We're not able to pay that.
Okay. Cool.
So they on your lender, and they will act just like a bank would.
Okay.
So they can be more flexible. Like when I say the bank requires 50%, they may say, well, just give me $10,000 or whatever amount that you guys can come up and agree with. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I know we talked to a guy a couple months ago named Kamal, and he has a farm out in Mebane, I think. But he mentioned to us when he was looking to acquire the land that he's on, that trying to go through the USDA, there were some requirements that really didn't, he really had to find some loopholes to get the land. One of them that he mentioned was that you had to work on a farm like have like, I guess, pay stubs or something from a farm. You had to have experience for like 5-10 years or something like that. Do you feel like some of these programs are not designed for, or do you feel like they're designed for particular people to be able to get access to them?
So they are very specific. So you will have to have a very clear vision of how you're going to use the land, and that's going to determine what kind of assistance you may get from the government.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more programs out there than a lot of people know about that are available, but they do have requirements, just like you do anything with the government. The government has, you got to jump through this hoop, or you got to have this amount or whatever. That's the only thing financing that makes it a little tricky for a lot of people, because you got to go by their guidelines in order to make those things, kind of happen. And also, you have to know how you're going to use the land and what you're going to be producing on the land, because whatever you produce is going to determine how long you might be able to get through the government, whether it's a U.S. and things like that. So it does make it tricky to get those kinds of government financing.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Caitlin, you got questions?
I was just thinking every time that you said the word financing, I don't know why growing up that word was kind of like, ugh, like a bad word. Like, let's not even talk about it. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I have to understand. I mean, if your parents grew up through the Great Depression, I mean, that is something that's going to always be stuck with you. It's a generational thing that, money, financing is a bad thing. But this day and age, with the prices of things, it's hard not to do financing. Most of us are not going to make, with the land prices, particularly in Wake County and some of the surrounding areas, most of us don't make enough money to go out there and buy land for cash.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, if you can get a land for $30,000 or $40,000 an acre in this area, you're doing real good. And then it goes up from there. So yeah, so financing is not a bad thing. One of the things that I've learned, studying, the financing, is that I was a student of Robert Kiyosaki. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him, but he wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Oh. And what I taught us about financing is that as long as you have, positive cash flow, you can use other people's money for a good cause. So that means that if you buy the land and you finance it, and then with the income you have coming in from, how you're using that, that is good money. That's good financing became a good thing for you. Mm-hmm. But when you do financing and you don't have income to offset the debt, then it does become a bad thing for you, because it'll keep making you go in the hole every month you make a payment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that can be good. It also can be bad, and it all depends on being very focused on how you're going to use it, and how. The biggest challenge that I see, with young people acquiring land, is how do you make land become income producing?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a big thing, and that's why so many the generations are not keep holding on to land, because once you start doing the taxes, and taxes just went up a lot, particularly in my eastern part of Wake County. The taxes, the new ones came out, they went up a lot. They're going to continue to go up a lot, and that means it's hard to justify 30 acres and you're paying $12,000 a year in taxes, and you have no income coming in. Mm-hmm. It wasn't when our grandparents were doing it because taxes were not so high, but also they farmed it. So they were making money for the hogs or whatever. So I don't know how you can have your horses to somehow make some money. Maybe you have some acres and you have the horses on one side, but you also have another side that you're also producing income from it, because that's going to keep you sustainable from here in the future for your children.
Mm-hmm. That is all excellent information. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see when people go try to find land?
Well, a lot of this is not really necessarily doing that due diligence, and the due diligence going to be make sure that the land, are you going to, even if you don't have well accepted or water and sewer on the land, you also want to make sure that you can get well and septic or sewer and water on the land in the future, even though you might not use it right now because you're doing a different type of farm on there. You also want to make sure there there's no the environmental issues either on the land or near the land. Okay, where sometimes there could be trash, the dumps and things like landfills nearby. You want to make sure that it hasn't been contaminated. These things around that. And then you want to make sure, the main thing is to make sure you can do on that land with the reason why you bought it. And a lot of people just assume that land is land and you can do whatever you want to with it. And that's not true.
Right. But like the zoning and stuff, is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's zoning, exactly. Like you buy 30 acres and you don't go find out what the zoning is, they say you can't have horses. Or if you do, you plan on having 50 horses, but they have a limit of 20 horses. So you make sure before you buy, you check out all those things so that you can operate that the way that you intended on using it. They can work for you with it.
Right.
I actually would have never thought that there might be a limit on the number of horses. Like I've never thought that, like, oh, one day I might just have all this land. I never considered, let me make sure wherever it said they don't have a limit, or if they do, I'm okay with the limit.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, there's so many limits on so many things, to be honest with you, that people don't even realize. There's a limit on time related people living in the same household. There's a limited number of animals people can have in their household. There's a limit to a lot of things that unless you check and you're going to have a special situation, you need to check and make sure those special situations can be handled on that land that you're looking at buying.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like you said, making sure there isn't something around the land that would be detrimental, like cause you issues if you try to sell it or something like that. The example of the dump. Recently, I have seen, like, with all the rain and stuff that we are getting, people who have water running through their land. I guess it depends on whether or not it's connected to like a larger body of water, if it goes into some river or something like that. But I've heard a lot of people say you need to make sure you look at land when it's wet and when it's dry, because they have water coming up to almost the house, and you don't know that when you go look at it on a sunny day and it's all pretty. But also if you have water that goes into a major river, you can't alter it. Your horses can't be near it. They can't like drink from the stream. And the government owns like a perimeter of that water, from that water, like 10 feet, 15 feet, something like that.
Setback, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something that I was looking briefly, and then I was like, oh no, this is too much. But I learned about that, because I always thought it was cool to, I don't have to fill up a water trough. The horses can drink the pond. But then it's like, okay, wait a second.
That's why you want to check and see what's around you, because, like you said, for instance, if you are near, maybe the farmer next door to you uses pesticides that when it runs off, it can kill your horses. The water, and then your horses go and drink, the water that's standing or something like that, and water, and because of the contamination from the next door farmer, then the horses get sick, and then you have to deal with the cost of veterinary bills or even the loss of your horse.
Yeah.
Or that you're in a good safe area that's free from your neighbors that could do anything that do harm to them. There's a lot of due diligence you want to do before purchasing raw land. And the more developed you get, really the more polluted everything around us absolutely gets. So, but I do think buying large parcels of land is definitely a good idea. If you find, like I said, if you find a way to buy it, hold it. And like I said, I was running through some ideas, like I talked to Caitlin, of some things that you could do. I told about cannabis. I mean, it's coming to North Carolina, and I people in California, and they are making a ton of money off cannabis. But I don't know how cannabis will affect horses, the runoff. So it may be a good idea, but it can definitely be a great cash crop to pay for the expenses when your horses are not bringing in income. You've got another product that you can use to bring in some income for that. Offset the debt.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of going with it's not really what's trendy, but it's what's growing. Money is coming in, and it's coming from all kinds of places, and we just have to figure out how to tap into it.
That's right. Absolutely. And I don't know enough about cannabis. I know they're doing degrees and stuff in cannabis, and I know it is the new tobacco. I was raised on a tobacco farm, and it supported my family. And my family, we were able to live a really a good life. And things like that, just off of growing tobacco. And so now that they no longer do that, they do it on a corporate level. Then cannabis is the new tobacco. I mean, we still grow cotton. There's other things you can do to have your land become kind of income producing. So tell me this. So how many of you young people, have really run into some challenges? Have you had any specific issues with buying land that have you run up to some problems? And is it just financing the problems or finding the land? What's been the biggest challenge?
I would say both, honestly.
Both.
Getting the money together to put down a down payment versus, finding programs that you would be able to qualify for. I've gone, down the black hole of the internet, just looking at different programs and trying to find not even just horse related programs like livestock programs, but just, even minorities owning farms programs. But then also finding locations with large enough parcels of land that would make it worth it. I personally wouldn't go for any less than 10 acres, just because of, like you said, if I'm going to make it available for the horses and for some other income producing venture, then I need to be able to separate them. I just need to have enough to do enough to create that income flow. So that, I think both of them are the biggest challenges. I don't even know if one's over the other, but I've gone on Zillow and some other sites, just put in the filter land only and trying to find places that, would kind of fit. But then it's like the money doesn't seem right. Like, there's 2.5 acres here for 80,000, and then you could possibly buy more, or it just seems like not a scam, but if you don't know what you're doing, you could end up with something that you don't want, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So.
And for me, is just thinking about where would I go? Because, about the farm and how everything is developing so quickly. So how am I supposed to make a decision on something I want to buy when in like 10, 20 years, I could be surrounded by an entire city?
That's right. And so that is a very good point. So how do you protect yourself? So I would say a couple of things, for you ladies to consider. I do feel like, Wake County, number one, has gotten so expensive. It's going to be hard to find that acreage.
Oh, yeah. We passed looking at Wake County.
That is out of the picture.
Exactly. It's like
nothing left.
It's out of control. But if you could consider going out a little bit further into some of the surrounding areas like Tarboro, and even on the other Sanford, on the other end, Wilson, and some of the areas are not, it bumps up, but you still can buy land at much affordable price. So I would also suggest thinking differently about where you will be willing to settle and farmland developed.
Yeah.
What you were saying, Caitlin, is very, very true. So how do you protect yourself so the development doesn't eventually in the future, because I know that's what's happening with your dad, just come and try to take over what you've done and kind of push you out of the way. And one of the ways that I feel like we as a people must become very, very involved and more involved in is planning and zoning.
Mm-hmm.
We need to make sure they know who we are. Okay? So say, for instance, you find 30 acres in Tarboro, great price, you're able to work out financing, whether it's owner financing or whatever, you go there, you're able to do all the things that you desire to do, with that. I would highly recommend that you get very involved with the planning and zoning. Let them know who you are. Hi, I just bought 3 acres off State Street, and that kind of stuff like that. Periodically, put your head in there. Go to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Ask someone to know what they plan on doing all around you, including your land. Because you might go to that meeting if you don't go on a regular basis, and you see your land up there, and they got plans for you there.
Mm-hmm. I've been at a town hall meeting and, like the neighbors show up because they want to hear what this person who wants to come in and buy something has to say. And then, they give their opinions because they're like, well, we don't want that. Like it's in our neighborhood. It's on our street. We don't want that over here. I've been in those meetings and I just wish that I knew about them sooner, or my family even knew about them and participated in them.
Right. And that's just, and it doesn't work. And that's why I think sometimes we have to learn how to leverage partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
That my mentee taught me when I was very young in the banking world. She said, we don't need to sit at the same table. We know each other. So what you do as a group, of young people, you say, your responsibility is to go to every town meeting. And you come back and you give a report to all of us. It doesn't need for all y'all to go. But, at least 1 or 2 people are committed to that particular. And then you've got somebody else doing some of the other things that's required to maintain this, and you share that information because I think that they're counting on us not, number one, sticking together. And I'm glad you guys, that's why you have this blog, because part of that is you got like-minded people together. Why would you not try to start, corporate entities where maybe the down payment is $100,000, but maybe you got 5 of you that have $20,000 each, and you can own it on a certain level, and then you decide that each person plays a role to make sure not only we're going to keep it today, but we're going to keep it 100 years from now. This land will still be ours to be, in our families and things like that. Just having a real clear plan about doing that. And the thing I tell you that happens all the time. I'm starting for myself, just going on the planning boards from all around where I live, everywhere, just meeting with the people. And every time I go, they're very open. They're very willing to, have me there and have one-on-one, not just to the meeting that's open to the public. I don't do that. I just go and talk to them on a one-on-one basis.
Mm-hmm.
So where do people find information about these meetings? I mean, I know that I've seen I'll see a random sign in the grass one day, meeting on the whatever, I'm like, how I don't feel like that's the best way, but is there another way to find out about these events?
Sure. They're public meetings, so they must disclose them publicly. So every municipality has a website. Okay. So what you do is you go to the website, and typically the meetings, the public meetings, are scheduled once a month. And so whether that's the second Tuesday at 5:00, you will know by going to the website when those meetings are. And then, like I said, they're normally the same time every month.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like it's a secret. Hey, we're having a meeting. Oh, we told everybody,
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
It seems like it.
If you don't find what you're looking for, website, call them. Sometimes you may have to call 2 places. For instance, where I live in Wake County unincorporated, right? So I would go to Wake County Planning Department, but I would also want to go to the city of Raleigh because I also have a Raleigh address. So there may be two planning departments that I need to be involved in. Not just Wake County, but also the city of Raleigh. The city of Raleigh, what I understand right now is they're trying to expand where they are. So I need to go see if they're trying to expand and also get my area into the city of Raleigh. But sometimes you go to both your county as well as your township planning meetings.
Right. Right. And so you would recommend, I guess, before purchasing land, maybe attending these meetings in a general area where you're looking?
Yes, it'll be well worth your time. They're normally not very long. And you can actually go a lot of their websites, and most of them, some of the smaller towns don't, but they'll have a 20 to 40-year plan on the website. Like I think tonight they'll have a 40-year plan on their website. So
Zebulon, I said I know one town that don't, and that's Zebulon. Zebulon does not.
Okay. I think the one tonight there, I'm pretty sure there's a 40-year plan that they had out there on their website. You can take a look and see what they're planning. And things like that. Like it's everywhere. The RDU, the airport has a 20-year plan. They normally will publicize those 20, 40-year plans that are out there. 40 years is typically the furthest out the plan, but what's going on.
Wow.
So, I mean, what I'm gathering from this is you have to do your research. There isn't going to be any shortcut. There isn't going to be any easy way out for this such a big investment. Am I understanding that right?
That's exactly right. And sometimes, I think that we could fall asleep at the wheel, and that means, we're not as engaged as we need to be we have to be engaged. Your land is a great value. So you want to continue to monitor everything that's going to possibly come in around it. And land is a scarcity. I mean, that's the one thing, like I said in the beginning, that once it's gone, it's gone. And so it's going to increase in value. It has no choice. And so just know that, if there's no plan today, they're going to have a plan for you 10, 20, 30, 40. It's coming.
Yeah.
And you just have to have defenses up on how you want to handle that in the future.
Right. And it's not when something goes wrong that you need to start attending these meetings.
Right.
Exactly. You way before then. And they need to see you. Yes. Whoever you are, they need to know who you are. Even when leadership changes, then you make sure the new leader knows who you are, and those kind of things as well. So you have to constantly be in front of them,
Yeah.
That makes sense, because whatever we've been doing, we behind.
That's right. And the thing about it is, we need to groom our children to take these jobs.
Yeah,
And
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can be football players and basketball players all day, but these are some jobs that they need to be in, that they need to know about.
Exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, and even if they don't take the jobs, understanding the value of, having the land. Like I remember a few years ago, or when I first moved to Zebulon, I was like, oh my gosh, because my parents are in Chapel Hill and we have several acres in Chapel Hill, 5 minutes from UNC. And I'm like, our land's worth a lot of money. I'm like, y'all, we could sell our house and sell the land and buy like 50 acres in Zebulon. Like, just the sheer cost. But then I was thinking, like, that's exactly what is wrong, just selling off land that you have had in your family for many, many years. That's the exact opposite thing that needs to happen. So using that land as your benefit to help your family remain an income source, even if you don't, even if you're not on it, renting it out if it has a house, or leasing it out if it has like farmable land, things like that is a better way to approach it than to just get rid of it.
Right.
So,
and I'll tell you, the municipalities where your land is located, when you make it where the tax basis is more than just the land itself, they have a vested interest in your success. Okay? So that means that if you're making a product or service that they can tax, like tobacco, when it was popular, they were still getting money, not just from the property taxes on land, but you made it income producing. And that's why they like the developers to come in there, because now you take a raw piece of land, let's say you're getting 12,000 a year of taxes off that land. If you turn that 30 acres into 300 homes or whatever, 200 homes, the taxes the city gets is like, do the math. I mean, so you can understand why they're not going to really protect your land, because the municipality is going to get a lot more money by having single family homes on your land than it is for you to have raw land and they're getting, X amount of dollars just for the raw land. Invest it to make sure you keep your land. About dollars and cents. So the other thing too that I want to make sure you guys are aware of is that how the transfer of wealth kind of happens, because if your parent owns land, and say for instance, when they die, you get the basis at the time of their death. And what I mean by that is that and we got this thing all wrong. That's why I'm saying this, because say, for instance, if your parents did a quitclaim deed and transferred land today from you to them, a quitclaim deed, you will get the value of when they got their land. So say they got land 40 years ago, and the land was worth $2,000 an acre, and now it's worth $40,000 an acre. Then the taxes are between the 2,000 basis that was when they got it in 1964, or whatever that number may be, to 2020, then you acquire that. But after their death, if they died in 2020 or 2025 or whenever that is, you acquire the basis, the value there. So then that means that if you were to sell it or whatever, you basically wouldn't pay the taxes on it.
So does that mean, is that for when the land is paid off? Is it the same if they're still paying it?
It has nothing to do with a lien against it. It's just pure value. The only reason I just tell you that, I know you guys do conversations about keeping the land and things like that. So I know this is what that conversation, but it's still an important part that we don't necessarily know about real estate, period, which is what family home or land. It's just really, it's good to know that, the basis, when it starts and when it, doesn't, because sometimes people think quitclaim deed is going to make it better, but what this really kind of hurts you, because if you inherit it that way, you're going to be based on when they actually did it. So if you wait till after they pass and you acquire it, it becomes much better for you.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So that is definitely valuable.
Yeah, I had no idea that there was a difference in that. So thanks for sharing. I'm trying to think. I'm like, I kind of like put my land searches on the wayside. So all the questions I had then, I'm like,
So why did you do that?
Because I talked to I talked to a realtor, and I talked to like a finance person that had experience in like agriculture, and my income versus debt to income ratio was too high with student loans. They were like, we could get you, a piece of land that's like $80,000. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to try to find a piece of land that's $80,000 when I know that that's only going to get me like maybe 3 acres. The land that I was looking at, it was just like, that's not enough for what my vision is. So I'm not going to take on that investment right now.
So are you open to share your vision?
Yeah, I mean, I am. It's not even that I want to make. Well, I know that it's a better intention on making my land income producing, but I would like to honestly just be able to afford to not make it income producing, and that's why I'm trying to finish this degree and get another job. But you know, I know me and Caitlin have talked about like having a pretty much like what she has at home, like a riding center, a place where kids can come learn about horses and providing therapies, for providing counseling, things like that. So that's I mean, that's not a 5-acre project to me when my priority is making sure the horses have enough room.
So
Mm-hmm.
is that something you're looking at doing on a nonprofit level, or were you trying to was that going to be a business? Were you going to make it like a business?
We've looked into like both sides. I don't think it's a decision that's been made yet because there's pros and cons to each. So, we just trying to amass all the research we can before kind of taking that next step.
Well, I can just tell you that this is a good time to get projects like that done. But you have to have a very good business plan, and that is going to be able to show a particular investor that you can pay back the expenses. Because right now there are a ton of people with a whole lot of money, right? They're out there, but there's a ton of money out here for individuals, and some of them are willing to invest in projects that they feel they can get their return on their investment on. That means if say for instance I got $10 million, right, and the bank is going to pay me 1 or 2% interest on my money, and I can charge you, 8, 9, 10%. Then they would rather invest in a great idea and get 8 and 10% versus a safe idea, which is a bank, and getting 1% or 2%. So, one of the things I would say that I would recommend that young people do is really look at how, and I'll keep saying this again, how you can make it income producing, because that's when you can get an investor to come in and look at investing in your dreams. And they'll say, okay, well, this is a project that makes sense because this to build, this area, and they're going to have these many a year. They got already, X amount of followings on your blog. You've got 1 million followers or whatever that number may be. And all these things are making sense for an investor to say, hey, this is good. This is going to be a valuable investment. I'm going to get my return. And, they're not, only thing a good investor cares about is that his money he's gonna get a return on his money.
Right.
That's, money talks, dollars and cents.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
So, okay, so I would just to put this in a nutshell, I guess. What would you say kind of is the procedure to follow if someone is looking to acquire land? Like just, brief step.
Well, I think first of all, you have to be open. Okay. Before, Wake County is probably not going to be your best place to go to get land, but you will. Okay. That's the first thing. Then after you are being very, very open, you also are going to look what's realistically what I can afford. The last thing you want to do is regret your investment, because it's now taken away from your family. It's now stressing you out, and all that stuff like that. But I would say that is having a very detailed plan of how you're going to use that land. Write it up as though you already have it, and that is the model that you use to kind of move forward, is, exactly what you're going to do, how many horses you're going to have, if you're going to have a barn, you're going to rent out X amount of spaces, whatever that is going to be, just write a very, very detailed plan. And I can almost promise you, if you write a detailed plan, the land's going to show up. And that's just being definite on what you're going to do with that land. The land is going to show up.
Yeah.
And what you don't want to do is the land to show up if you don't have a plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotta be prepared.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So, and then after you found the right and perfect land, you want to do your due diligence on it. You want to go and, like I said, the things we say, do your soil testing, do your water testing for, water and sewer. You also want to do environmental issues, and it's called phase 1 environmental. You want to, do on there. And that means that sometimes if there was 10 years ago, there might have been a gas station a mile away, and those things travel under the ground. So a phase 1 environmental can also test to see if there's any, underground oil tankers or anything like that that you're not aware of that can affect the soil and also the quality of the water that's around there as well. Mm-hmm. And so, those kinds of due diligence that you want to do. Look at everything that's around there. Go ahead and go and make an appointment to talk to the planning and zoning director in that municipality. Ask what projects are coming that, you don't see any ground movement yet, but ones that have been presented and the ones that have been approved. Go ahead and ask those questions.
Right.
And then, of course, you got to get your money, have your money in place so that when the right and perfect land comes along, that you've already got a way to go ahead and do the financing on it.
Yeah.
To execute it right away.
Awesome. Well, that's good. That's definitely more information than I had when I was first started out. And so it got overwhelming quickly because I didn't have a plan and I didn't know what to expect. So I was just like, you know what? Renting doesn't sound too bad.
It doesn't sound bad for a little while, but sooner or later you'll get tired of that, and you want to be able to have a lot more control. And number 2, you want to have your money work a little bit harder for you than working hard for somebody else. Because that's what happens when you're renting. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All those things. Caitlin, you got any more questions?
I don't. I think you hit everything that and more, because I learned a lot tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to school us on this thing called land acquisition and ownership. Because I don't even know at this point what we can. We're doing this the YouTube channel and the podcast, but I just feel like I'm like, all you young people, let's come together. Like, let's go out to eat. Let me tell you what I just learned. I just want to yell it out to the masses because I feel like, the priority is not there, or it's starting to, more people are like, oh, okay, maybe, farming's not that bad. It's starting to get cool again, but don't have the resources. So I really do appreciate you sharing that with us today, because I know somebody's going to learn something, and at least 2 of us.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
On board.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end this. And, just kidding. Rewind. Is there a way that people can contact you to ask you questions like this? Do you want them to? I don't know. Email?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they can feel free, contact me, with questions, and I'll be happy to be there for them. But the best way to get me is probably my cell phone, and my name, of course, is Tonya Debnam, and you can call me at 919-454-4511. Or you can also reach me at my email address. It's very easy, which is my first and last name, which is Tonya, Tonya, Debnam, Debnam, @gmail.com.
Awesome.
Awesome.
my email. That's where you get me. And I also can do text messages, so feel free.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for putting yourself out there as a resource. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you for watching YBE TV. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay updated with our newest content. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. We are on Instagram and Facebook. Our Instagram handle is @YoungBlackEquestriansTP. Remember to use hashtag YoungBlackEquestrians or hashtag YBE when making posts to social media. Tune in next week for another episode. Enjoy your week.